Hello and welcome back to episode 3 of the Spiciest Salsa 2024 podcast, where all of our friend group come together and talk about the best salsas that they had in 2024 and also discuss some light video games in the meantime. I am your host, Clever Diversion, and we have sitting next to here our lovely and talented Shaunasaur. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Shaunasaur.
And we have the wildly talented Carbon Speed Dating.
Howdy. Yeah.
Yep. And we have Line Arc Line on the other side.
That's me.
And we have Rather Sunless.
It's me. I've been here the whole time.
All
Oh,
right.
Good
And
show.
as we left off last time, our victors, Pentiment and Helldivers 2, and the semifinal round for Horizon Forbidden West and Life is Strange. And then we'll pick our finalists and have them battle head to head, just like Pokemon. All right, let's start it off with Pentiment. Would you like to introduce part of the discussion for Pentiment?
I think we shouldn't. I think we should get right into discussing these games versus each other, because I feel like I've talked a good amount about Pentiment and Helldivers, but I guess to get the ball rolling on Pentiment versus Helldivers, I think that for me personally, Pentiment was my game of the year because of just how much it sort of like threw me for a loop how good this game is. And I played it like in January, and in January I was like, oh no, am I bringing this game to besties? Am I finding my besties game in January of this year?
Yeah.
And sure enough I did, and sure enough I stood by that the entire year, because every other game that I played I was like, but is it as good as Pentiment?
Yeah.
No, it's still not good as Pentiment.
It's always a confusing feeling when you find your game of the year early. I think people are having that with Claire Obscura right now.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah, excellent story game, excellent like mystery, good character-driven plot, and good arcs that really take your decisions into consideration, and your decisions will color the rest of the game and change very key moments for you. And it also, like, it's a very good window into history. They kept things very historical fiction, very, very accurate. They did their research a lot. And playing this game feels like you're doing research as well, because you're learning the whole time. If you're not sure what something means, you can click on the word and it will give you the definition, like you're reading an audiobook, or rather a Kindle book, or I don't know, reading books.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very,
It gives you
very...
definitions, and so you're always learning about new terms and new things that are in history. So these are all actual things that you're learning, even though I love learning about fantasy things. These are all...
Yeah,
do you feel
it makes
that
it
it-
very approachable.
Mhm.
Yeah. How do you feel that it lines up with something like Helldivers? You know, going for that more bombastic multiplayer experience versus like a quieter first-person story-driven thing.
I feel like I mentioned a little bit last time, Helldivers had such like a important political message, I feel, and does, I think, even more so in 2025. And so like that also really, like, Helldivers, even though it came out relatively early in the year also, it also kind of colored the rest of the year for me, because I saw cosplayers of Helldivers at every convention that I was at. I was constantly hearing people talk about it, and hearing the like political activism behind parts of it just made it that much more of a cooler game for me.
Yeah, I mean, it asks an interesting question for what like we're defining as game of the year. It's like, is a game of the year just the best game we played that year, or is it a game that defined the year? Because for me,
Exactly.
I felt like Helldivers did that a little bit more than Pentiment. Not to say that Pentiment's not a great game, but Helldivers really was like the summer. Like there was those huge queues, and it had a staying power that we're still seeing. I mean, folks wasn't there just like something today with like a new trailer for like an expansion or something? So like so personally I'm leaning towards Helldivers for, between these two, because at this point it's not a question of quality. We've agreed they're both excellent games.
I
Yeah.
agree.
It's very set in time. Helldivers has this feeling of presentness that I think you can really only get from a multiplayer game. And it's a great point. Like, do we choose our game of the year based on what signifies the year for us? Signifies isn't the right word. Best encapsulates our feeling of the year, or is it just something we played this year? Because I think it could be either. But I feel very like the year was kind of defined by Helldivers for me, and even though I didn't notice it at the beginning, it was the comparison that I ended up making between all the other games that came out, because Helldivers was always there waiting to be played.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't feel that way about a lot of the other games. I felt like I could wait on them.
Yeah, and
Yeah, I think that's an interesting way of viewing it.
Yeah, and I think I
Yeah.
mentioned this last year with Elden Ring, where even though Helldivers is not a game that I have personally played myself, the cultural impact of it was absolutely inescapable this year. And just from being in a gaming space, being in like a nerd space, a convention space, everyone knows of and about Helldivers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think, I've always viewed it as what was the game of your 2024? What was the game of your year? And
Yeah.
in that way, as great as Pentiment is, and it really is like lifelong impactful in how it portrays and breathes new life into time periods that I thought I knew pretty much everything there was to know about. I think Helldivers is it's going to be very hard to dethrone Helldivers in 2024.
Yeah, absolutely. Like,
Not to mention its lasting impact. We're still
Yeah.
seeing it into 2025.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you take a game that just like almost reinvigorated the whole idea of a co-op game.
Yeah.
Co-op was well on the decline for a long time until Helldivers 2 came out, and it just all of a sudden you're dropping with your friends again.
Yep.
It's how many people can we get on? How many squads can we make? Where
Yeah,
are we
and,
going?
like,
What part
especially
of
shown by,
the
like how their servers were completely blown up for the first couple
Yeah.
weeks.
Yeah, it's clearly something people needed, and something I needed, right? Like a game that I can play with any number of my friends, as opposed to exactly one when it comes to some co-op games, or exactly four or three other people, right? It's like, yeah, you can drop solo, you can drop with a bud, with strangers, you can grab 3, heck, you can grab 8, and just be sharing comms and hearing each other's chaos. Like, yeah, it's a game that was needed, and a game that, yeah, like not every year has a game that that defines the year, but I think 2024 did.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Do you
Have we talked about how the developers enforced the co-op as well? Because there was plenty of call for a versus mode. It was talked about quite often, and then the developers shut it down. They said, we will never add a versus or a competitive mode to this game, because that goes against the principles that they were setting forth. And I really appreciate that.
Me too.
Mhm.
It is an interesting ethos to take in, rather than trying to make your game a game that's every game, like, trying to appeal to every audience. It's like, no, we have a very strong vision for what this is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you think that could be the name of the round potentially? Like both these games are narrative tour de forces, they know exactly what they're setting out to do and accomplish it very well.
I think that as a proposed game round idea, there's no versus mode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No more.
No
Yep.
versus
No
mode.
versus. Sorry. You have to be
Yeah, I was
nice.
thinking like strengthened vision or something, but I like that too.
Yeah, strong vision.
Yeah.
Strength and
Because
no
the
versus.
thing that I'll say for Pentiment is there is basically no flaws in Pentiment. Like, Pentiment also does not let you save and is very clear about no save scumming.
There is one bug that I found.
Oh,
and
really?
Yes. And from the Reddits and places that I looked to figure out the solution to this, it might be the only bug in the game, but it is a bummer and they haven't fixed it yet.
That's disappointing. That's kind of we could have a whole different, side conversation about the concepts behind forcing non-save scumming behavior. And just
Yeah.
on a technical side, if like God forbid the game have a bug in it,
Yeah.
and you just
Right?
soft launch,
Oh,
you've
no.
soft locked your
I mean,
entire experience.
We're running into that when we're playing Kingdom Come Deliverance, which we might do
Oh,
next
yeah.
year. But they also really curtail saving as a thing. It's tied to a resource, and it's hard to get. So, it was an interesting emotional experience as a gamer, and I think both of these games do a great job of like reaching gamers at their current state of play, and then delivering a compelling message addition to kind of the meta narrative of what it was to be a gamer at that time.
I think a game is what it asks from you, and Pentiment asks a bit more when you compare the two, because with the almost like roguelike quality with this no saving, that's probably not a fair comparison, but with the choices it asks you to make without being able to take those choices back,
Yeah.
I think that is a big ask, and it asks you to sit in this discomfort of not knowing.
Especially in a
And-
story game.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Helldivers doesn't do that. Helldivers, you can always just leave. No death is permanent, and it's very low stakes. Even though it
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes you need a
Moment
game
to
that's
moment
just
feels
low
high
stakes and
stakes.
easy. It's good.
It is
and
kind
it
of
makes
funny.
me
It's like
appreciate Pentiment more because of it's really trying to make you experience something
Mhm.
in a very serious way that I think all other multiplayer games just can't approach.
it's like imagine
Yeah.
if Baldur's Gate 3 didn't let you save scum. Like,
No.
right? You know, just
It's just like, I mean, I just think that in general, that kind of like enforcement of behavior with like a stick rather than a carrot is not really my favorite way to go. I think
Yeah.
that like we'll get to this a little bit, I guess, theoretically in the next round when we're talking about Life is Strange a little bit. But like something I really appreciate in the first Life is Strange is part of the mechanics of the game include like a minor amount of time manipulation, so you can like it's safe scumming as mechanic. So it still encourages you to be able to explore all your choices before you decide on one. And I find the way of just like being like no saving, like especially in something like Kingdom Come where you can die pretty easily or you can make a choice you didn't agree with, like Pentiment.
Mhm.
I feel like it's kind of asking a player to go in blind and not necessarily the most fun way. Like I never have found a system like that I really like. I
Yeah.
find it makes me less likely to want to play.
I mean, an interesting conversation if we wanted to do is the concessions that a game creator makes for its audience and then that the audience makes to play the game. Like, I think there was a very interesting audience interaction with the creators of both Helldivers and Pentiment 2, either in real time or ahead of time in Pentiment's case, where, you know, this art form is a offering of both sides, both the creator saying, I'm going to make something that I'm going to release into the world and be played in as many ways as the players will find to play it, which can be scary for a creator. And the buyer being like, you know, are my emotions in this transaction equally weighted with the beliefs and ideals of the creator? And I think we touched on this a few years ago in Besties, about like whose rights is really the most important thing here, you know? And we could also, like with Balatro, like the person making it said, you know, I'm only making it this way and I'm not going to listen to feedback and change it because I made the game that I want to make and I like it. I made this game for me, not for everyone else. The fact that everyone else can buy it is just part of something else. My counter to that is like, yeah, but it is also a product that we're customers for. We paid good, hard US currency for this.
So there's like I think there is to be found a happy middle ground, you know, like if we want to use Baldur's Gate as an example of that, they do have the honor mode for that exact idea, where it's like, hey, you get one save slot.
Right.
And people that want to participate in it in that way can. And it's a very popular way to play. And you get like a special achievement, like some special dice or something for doing it,
Yeah.
like their vision of the way. But it also doesn't like get in the way of how other people want to interact with it, especially if people aren't necessarily super familiar with, this kind of genre.
Yeah.
You want to make sure that you're accessible. And I think that, purity of vision can sometimes get in the way of accessibility for a wider audience.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
I
also
agree.
depends on what your vision is,
Mhm.
because when because I'm a game developer, when I'm making games, my vision is not my vision for the game I'm making is not set in stone, right? My goal is not to make a flawless piece of art that I have a perfect vision of in my head and release it, right? That's not what I'm about.
Exactly.
I'm about, I hope people have fun with this thing that I made. I'm
To
making,
give and take.
Yeah.
I'm making a toy, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I'm making a game for people, and if people don't enjoy it, I want them to tell me so that I can make it more enjoyable for them. There are lines I won't cross, there are
Sure.
things I won't implement, but I absolutely have some, there's absolutely a lot of give in that, where it's like people collectively are like, oh yeah, we have fun with this bit, but this other bit is not so great, and you need to fix it. And I'm like, I liked that bit, but no one else does, so I guess that's on me.
Yeah.
Like
all
and I'm
good,
gonna fix
healthy
it, yeah?
boundaries, there's some give and take. It's not fully rigid. And when they released their first patch notes for Helldivers, and they said, like, for the laser, the shoulder-mounted laser, which is my favorite weapon, they were like, our original design vision, they admitted that it was wrong, or they admitted that they were listening to the audience in this case, so that the laser on the shoulder-mounted option would be kind of a armor-piercing, boring into weapon, rather than the kind of light armor-piercing, just evaporate all the chaff like a laser pointer kind of weapon. And that's a bit what made me think of this topic in relation to Helldivers 2. It was one of the first times that I've recorded hearing a game developer say, like, oh, our vision was a little bit off on this, and the audience showed us that, and we either are agreeing genuinely or we have been brought over to your side through persuasive argument. And they referenced how the orbital laser cannon was used as an in-universe reason why, like, yeah, the shoulder-mounted cannon should be medium armor piercing. That feels better, or that makes more sense.
I
Ray,
think
do you all
that
wanna put it to a
compromise.
vote?
That's where I
think
think that
Finish what you were saying first, though.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I think that's where that compromise can come in, though, where it's the mechanics. Like, sometimes it's better to compromise on a mechanic, obviously, than to compromise on like the story vision.
Mhm.
Like, I would
Mhm.
never, like, I'm glad that all of the flack that like a game like Horizon got didn't seem to have any. It just bound, it's like water off a duck for the writers of that game. Like, they
Yeah.
didn't seem to give it any heat, as they shouldn't. Like, they shouldn't have listened to people just complaining out of bad faith. But at the same time, seeing mechanics that feel off don't necessarily give that good experience. So yeah,
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's definitely important to use the just prudence of when to listen and when not to.
Mhm.
definitely.
All right. Well, do we want to start off our voting? Shaunosaur,
Sure.
what do you think?
I would like to vote for Helldivers 2, actually.
Oh,
As much as I
Whoa.
love Pentiment and as much
Cool.
as it was a very good game for me this year, and for people that I shared it with, Helldivers, I would just be miffed if I didn't vote for Helldivers for 2024 because, like I said, it affected so much of like the gaming culture this year, and just like seeing cosplayers of it at conventions and hearing about the like activism aspect. I really appreciate this game for that, and I also really love a good social commentary and political satire.
yeah. And I will say,
I'm almost like, oh yeah, well I'm gonna vote for Pentiment then.
You can.
You can't come at me like that with this game. And like, I seriously consider it too, because I mean, like I said before, Pentiment asks certain things of the user or the player that Helldivers just doesn't. Like, Helldivers is a snack, Helldivers is fun, and but its meaning is kind of capped at its multiplayer value, which is kind of like, that's a high cap for me. If you go back a couple of years and listen to my evangelism of PUBG, you'll realize that playing alongside my friends is really the most valuable experience that video games can bring for me. Above a story, above even gameplay quality. It's being there and having a common experience with people is the part that I look for the most. And so even though I do want to spite you and vote for your game instead, I'm going to vote for Helldivers as well, because it let me do that.
Nice. All right. What do you think, Sunless?
Yeah, I mean, it defined the year. It dominated discussion. It dominated my playtime. It dominated my friends' playtime. It became the go-to. We finally had one again.
Right.
For over a year.
Yeah.
It was just, we're all bored and have access to Discord. Do you guys want to go play Helldivers for 4 hours? The answer was almost always hell yeah.
Helldivers, hell yeah.
That's right.
Helldivers, hell yeah. And they were the only ones at the Game Awards who came in full cosplay. So, you know,
They had-
I gotta give it to them.
They had the best
Amazing.
presentation. Yeah.
What? That's so good.
Yeah. And I think they did get snubbed
Yeah.
at the Game Awards, you know?
Agreed. I really
Yes. They had the recency bias problem.
All right. What do you think? Carbon Speed
do. I
Dating?
can go. Yeah, Helldivers. Like I said, as we were just mentioning there, I also think that it got snubbed at the Game Awards. I felt like the fact that I think it was the only section it was part of was like the multiplayer one, which it won, obviously, but I was surprised that it didn't. I think it was going through something at that time. I think there was some various controversies happening, but regardless, yeah, it was very much the defining part of that year when it came to the gaming scene.
Nice. Yeah. I am also going to vote for Helldivers, but I do want to bring up a point, which is maybe in the next round we can elaborate more, but it is kind of lives and dies on its balance. And like, I remember some months in that first year where Helldivers was really falling off. A lot of their new things that were released were not very popular. And like kind of at the end of summer, it did start losing its popularity, and then it came back with full force. I remember saying to Jacob and Dixon, like, it's better now. They fixed it, or they changed the balance. Because there was a time when people were falling off of it.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to talk about that
Absolutely.
in the finals.
All right,
When
for
it-
this
I
round,
do
though.
quickly want to say Two Sides of Hell is a round name.
Oh,
Two Sides of Hell
that's
is
great.
very good.
Nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go. One step
you,
from
thank
hell.
you.
I love that. So good.
All right. Well, congratulations, Helldivers 2. Moving swiftly along to our second in the brackets, we got Horizon Forbidden West and Life is Strange Before the Storm. Sunless, do you want to do a little bit of Horizon Forbidden West? Why do you think it deserves to win this round?
Horizon Forbidden West deserves to win this round because of almost all of the games, actually of all the games I played in 2024, it is the most next gen. It when I played it, to be fair, I played it on the PC port of the original PS5 game. After many rounds of patches and updates. So maybe its launch experience was a little bit more Spider-Man 2 than it was what I played, but its launch experience was near flawless. Excellent performance at a graphical fidelity you won't see almost anywhere else. Gameplay top-notch, animations, genre advancing. It is like the next step in terms of extraordinarily large open world AAA video games, the things that you can only get when you have a team of like 500 plus people and take years and millions of dollars to make a game.
Is it Ubisoft?
and-
Hey,
No, God, who did make it? Crystal Dynamics?
That sounds right.
But yeah, it's a huge game. It's what AAA should try to be, and it's one of those few ones where, sort of like Zelda Breath of the Wild back in the day, when you hear about how long it took to make it, you don't go, "What? Where did the time go?" You go like, "Yeah, that makes sense."
Yeah.
If
This
anything,
art
that
would-
in fact, it shouldn't have taken that little amount of time.
Yeah, it's like, no, looks like it takes years and years to make by hundreds of people. It looks that complicated to do that.
Yeah.
I'm
then
shocked it's a game that it can exist on like a computer, and it was a large game, but it over 100 gigs, but it wasn't like obscenely large. Like it's a
Yeah.
miracle that something like that can exist.
Yeah, and even beside all of that, like all of its physical quality as a piece of software, you get its art quality, right? Like, a lot of the character performances are steps up from the original, and excellent. Aloy is one of my favorite main characters of a game in a long time, especially in this one, seeing her character growth and her character faults and seeing her work through those. God, girl, got a friend.
She's going through
And-
it.
She's got a rough time.
It also
Um,
had one of my favorite in-universe reasons where you don't have your gear anymore. So you know all the gear you collect in the first game. Between the two games, it got washed down a river,
Oh.
and she was so
Really?
busy. Yeah, she was so busy she couldn't go get it. So
That's
that's why you
right.
start.
No.
That's why you start the game with no gear.
Wow.
And so she does start the game with a piece of armor, and the piece of armor is the best piece of armor from the first game. However, she's been using it so long and running it so rough, and has never done any maintenance because she's practically killing herself with the amount of work she's doing. That it has just degraded into a piece of common gear. It's just armor again. It loses all its special features because she broke
It's
it
still
by being
visually, yeah.
obsessed. Yeah, Gorilla,
Which-
that's what made it. Jesus.
Which is such a hilarious. It's also, like I said, it's very funny, but also like it actually works inside the narrative because of it hasn't been that it has both been a set amount of time since the previous game, but also they made that mechanic decision that sort of justified it with the story of being like that forward driven that like no, I can't even stop to go get my stuff anymore.
Yeah. I think it's a
Still
great
very funny though.
in-game, in-narrative story reason. I always appreciate when things like that happen for gamers.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah.
Do you want to transition to an outline for Life is Strange for Carbon Speed Dating?
Yeah. So, Life is Strange Before the Storm, as I mentioned previously, is a prequel to the original Life is Strange game. And I brought it because it certainly doesn't have the same scale as something like Horizon or Helldivers or something of that kind of, a game that takes hundreds and hundreds of people to make, years and years to make. But for me, it kind of reminded me why I enjoy the narrative genre so much. Because I had been kind of disappointed the entire year with a lot of the narrative games that I had been playing. Games from studios that had been very reliable in the past that kind of come out with, kind of... The one I was thinking of was I had Casting of Frank Stone, which was done by the same studio as Until Dawn and The Quarry, which are games that I really enjoyed in the past when it came to like choose your own adventure mechanic, that had kind of been letting me down this year with the Casting of Frank Stone. And then playing Life is Strange Before the Storm, it was such a tight, emotional, satisfying experience that I was reminded why I like this genre so much, and specifically why I like Life is Strange, because their quality can vary a bit, in particular depending on which game you're playing. And this one, I would argue, if not the best one, is certainly in the top 2. So yeah, nothing but fun.
Yeah.
It's also very punk,
I mean,
and it's got that, I am 16 and I think I know what emo means sort of energy.
yes. There's quite a lot of emotional power behind both of these games. I think in that way, it's amazing. Basically, the parity that is achieved at the semifinal round between much smaller studios and huge, weighty impact games for like Horizon Forbidden West that require huge amounts of money to get out the door, but of course are well worth it when they do arrive, if of course it
call
lives
the
up to
rounds-
expectations.
Yeah, though
Mhm.
I think stylistically, like, I am so blown out of the water by how beautiful Horizon Forbidden West is.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, but as far as like the style of Life is Strange, like, keep in mind that they're trying to match the style of a game that they made 10 years ago.
It's true.
Oh, yeah.
They're going
Yeah.
for a very specific, like, flat kind of texturing style.
Yeah, so
And I will
they're
say,
trying to keep it like
before I
the same tone and same, so it looks like it's the same series as something that came out in like 2015.
Yeah, and I do think that, as you know, I don't, if we're for in terms of naming the round, I do like the name "Girl Get a Friend" because it fits both of them
Yeah.
really well.
Yeah,
That's right.
I think that's great.
These girls need therapy.
Yeah.
Girl Get a Friend,
Yeah.
It's
or it could be
true.
"Girl Get a" in parentheses "Girl Friend."
That
It also
yeah,
fits for
for
both of
both.
them.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I think in always when we do this podcast, it's hard for, I think, the smaller games to compete with the larger games. But I think they do great by focusing on writing and story and authenticity and kind of the vulnerability that comes with dealing with real emotional topics. I think in this case, in a way, the AAA game also matched or met the story indie darling. I mean, if you could even call Life is Strange indie anymore.
I mean, compared to something like Horizon,
I think
Yeah.
so, yeah.
we can certainly at least say that the scale of them are different.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, I mean, both are bringing a lot of, I think, a maturation of the art form in 2024 with, between this and Dad of War,
Yeah,
gaming
I
is
mean,
starting to talk about some real
well-
adult stuff. Like the writing is becoming I think, very healthy, mature, emotional teaching tool for the society as well, just as an art form. I'm really happy to see
yeah.
that.
It's been very interesting to watch games by writers as they've gotten older and had new life experiences. I imagine this will be something that we can bring up next year when we inevitably talk about God of War Ragnarok. But like to watch writers basically have children and then
Yep.
have new things that they want to explore in their writing has been very satisfying.
And maturing
having
as a
these series-
studio as well,
Yeah,
like
that
them
too.
as creators and then also their audience kind of mirroring that back.
Yeah,
hmm
very good.
All right. Do we want to feel like we're going to some voting for this one?
Sure.
I am
gonna
happy
need
to.
come back to me because I'm watching both of these trailers and I'm seeing reasons for both.
Yeah.
I will say, like, I can go first. How about that? Because I was going to say that I am happy to vote for Horizon. As much as I love Life is Strange, Horizon is just a very interesting example for games to see when you put all the money and the talent in one room, what kind of things the industry is capable of.
Yeah.
And it was a very enjoyable experience. I think that the future of gaming is still looking very bright in that regard. But yeah, if you haven't played the Life is Strange games, I'll just say this for them. They're worth the time. They're not very long games. I think you can probably get it done in like maybe 2 sittings, and they're well worth the time.
Yeah, I
Awesome.
definitely feel like it's hard to compete with Horizon Forbidden West. I definitely think that it's a strong showing from Life is Strange for what they basically using 100% of the tools that are available to them in the genre. Yeah, my vote does have to go for Horizon Forbidden West though, just because it's the game I always wish existed. It's kind of like how I thought Monster Hunter would be before I played Monster Hunter, with like, I guess, the way that its combat is oriented. I also really applaud kind of a bow focus on gaming. I think that's a really cool way to go about third-person action, and I think it's just one of the most satisfying game that's ever been made by humans. So it's hard not to
Hey.
vote for.
Yeah. DLC is excellent as well. We haven't really talked about it very much here because it mostly involves spoilers for the game, which I don't want to get too deep into, but it also has excellent DLC.
Yes.
Which one? Horizon?
For
or-
Horizon.
Gotcha. Okay.
All right.
Yeah. I think
Oh, sorry.
Technically, there is DLC for Life is Strange, and it is the single most devastating thing you can do with your afternoon.
Devastating.
But it does require you to have finished the games to kind of understand what's happening. But yeah,
Yeah, I think that my vote is also for Horizon Forbidden West. Even though I literally put this Life is Strange game on my wish list like right after we talked
Hey.
last time. Cause like for a AAA game, like yes, it is like one of the most like visually stunning games that I've ever seen. And like even beyond that, having AAA games that aren't just man with gun goes on adventure.
oh yes,
Because
no,
I want to just see
agree.
more of that, like having a female protagonist, having bizarre little creatures and different kinds of weapons, and like a extremely floral and lush and outdoor landscape that's, I don't know, it's just like the post-apocalyptic being not a sandy hellscape and instead being this lush jungle is just so stunning, and I wish we had more games like this.
It has a very strong artistic vision, yeah.
the post apocalypse.
And they keep surprising me with their new additions to that vision. Like this game, you can sort of see in the trailers where they are exploring new ideas even within that art direction. It doesn't feel like, oh, you're just playing the first game again.
Nice, that's excellent. Yeah, because the first game did have a very different landscape.
It did. Well, you're in
Yeah.
different areas.
I think it's also the emotional landscape of the characters is like who you're asked to inhabit and play the game from the perspective of. That is its whole other art form, I think, that Life is Strange does really, really well, where it plays with your perspective a lot.
Mm-hmm. All right. I suppose
Man.
I can go penultimately. Give Light
Yeah.
a bit more time to think.
Thank you. I need it.
Yeah, I mean, my vote, obviously, Horizon Forbidden West. Played it straight through. Basically, played nothing else while I was doing it. Endlessly captivating from beginning to end. Even if, even the parts where it's like, I'm just going to decide I'm going to go grind some materials for a bit, which normally sounds like a super boring and lame way to spend an afternoon, was just crazy fun with this one, just because the way that the machines work and your weapons work and the tactics you have to use to make it and to survive is just so satisfying and such a good time. So yeah, Horizon Forbidden West.
All right. And then there was
I think that's
one.
enough time. Yeah. So I've been thinking about the audience of both of these games because one of them, Horizon, was made for everybody. Like they try very hard to make this an enjoyable experience universally. And they tell a story that is universal appeal, and it may be a very good story, but something that really captivates me about every Life is Strange is that even though it may not be for me, it's for a narrower audience that I think it can reach unlike any other piece of media that, tries to make a story or an experience for generally everybody. And that's why I'm going to vote for Life is Strange here, is because I feel like I look at Horizon Forbidden West and I feel like I can see through my whole experience. I'm going to meet characters, I'm going to run around, I'm going to get gear, I'm going to find new ways to traverse the world and unlock areas of the map and be like, oh, why can't I go there? And I'm sure I'll figure it out later. And it makes me kind of tired. And I know that's not fair to it, but it's been something that I've been feeling with a lot of games that don't surprise me anymore. And I feel like I'd genuinely be in for a surprise and incomparable experience when it comes to Life is Strange. And this, I know it's not a very impactful vote since Horizon is definitely going to win this one. And also Horizon has Lego sets about it. So,
Oh.
Yeah.
but like, that's kind of why I'm rooting for the underdog here, is because I think it's important in video games to use the medium to tell stories that you couldn't otherwise. And I see Life is Strange trying to do that harder than most of the other games in this entire bracket.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, I think there's a lot to be said for knowing your identity and working within that and staying true and faithful and authentic to your vision. And I remember the first Life is Strange where I played it as a much younger person who was closer to the teenage experience and was still remembered freshly how shitty it was to have your life controlled and go to school all the time. And even now that I'm an adult, I have a different, now that enough time has passed as an adult, I should say, I have a different perspective on it. But I think it's very important to preserve evangelical games for younger or teen audiences that resonate with their experience at that time. And like, just in watching the Let's Play that I did about Life is Strange, it's very emotionally charged. Like, those stories stick with me for a long time because a lot of them are partly about like being on the fringes of society, or that punk rock, like the experience of things not going well for you in your young life, basically. And whether that's through abuse or whether that's just through, things not working out for you, but the interaction relationship with drugs and alcohol and poverty is very apparent. And depending on how your life was before this, that might be a really significant theme that you might need to hear or at least see externalized into another media.
Yeah, there's an
one
art
of these
phrase that I
games-
like a lot, that I think is similar to what you were saying, Leinart Klein, where it's don't trade honesty for relatability. And you might think that those things sound kind of similar, but I feel like it stems off of what you were saying a lot about Life is Strange, where even though not everyone can relate to it, the people who do relate hard and
Yeah.
see themselves in it, and it's a deeper hitting experience.
Yeah. It's like,
I also
don't-
So
think
that's my vote.
It's also a great example in empathy. Like, even if you weren't in this experience, the writing does a great job of literally putting you into that. This is the advantage of it being a game, obviously, but putting you into those shoes.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, that will make Horizon Forbidden West the victor of this semifinal round. Okay, so the only thing left is the finals. Do you want to do some honorable mentions or perhaps any worsties that were left over from last round?
I have some honorable mentions, but give me a
All right,
second.
honorable mentions incoming. Does anyone else have any
boy.
ready to go? I mean, I already went
need to
over part
prepare.
of mine for Destiny 2.
I
But
mean,
yeah.
I feel like I should at least give a brief shout out to Space Marine 2 and
Oh,
how much
definitely.
fun that was. That's just
Oh,
good
yeah.
gaming.
So, I mean,
That's
let's just
that's
do
a
an
good
introduction
game.
for those who don't know. We are talking about 40K, Warhammer 40K Space Marine 2, which is a game that released, I believe, in September, or was it August?
Something like that. Later
October?
on.
Yeah, so Space Marine 2 is a big, bulky He-Man meathead shoot 'em up where you fight aliens, filthy Xenos, and you do it. And it also was a great co-op game for that time period. It also featured a multiplayer that was, some would say, kind of bare bones, but Dixon, or Hale Knox had really liked it because it was also classic. It was kind of a throwback to almost Gears of War style multiplayer, very early 2000s experience, but really authentic and good.
And the music was great.
Okay, I have my
Um,
notes for mine, but
Okay.
if you have more, go for it.
Nope. Go for
Okay.
it.
I have a pretty short one. So this it's not a new game by any means, but this is the year that I was finally able to play The Return of the Obra Dinn, and that was an excellent
Yes.
experience.
Mm-hmm.
I find it absolutely fascinating that the developer for it doesn't make very many games. It's basically just but every game he makes is just, how about I define a new game genre?
Yeah.
It's like, so it's between, playing the Obra Dinn and Papers, Please. But yeah, I got around to playing Obra Dinn. Excellent game. Wonderful experience.
Yeah, I also played that this year and absolutely agree. Fantastic art style, unique gameplay.
Unique visuals.
All right.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's a great example of doing more with less, because it's basically just a simple shader on top of simple. For the ship, it's very intricate, but in general, it's very simple. Like I said, he does a great job doing a lot of very genre-defining things.
Mhm.
I look
He's
forward
very
to his
good.
next game too.
Oh, nice.
Lucas Pope, I think, is the name. Yeah.
Mhm.
I have an honorable
For,
mention.
oh, sorry, do you have yours?
I have a quick one. I recently met a coworker who also plays a video game, and I never expected this to happen again, because that's right, I'm still playing Heroes of the Storm. I'm going to bring it every year because it is genuinely my
The perennial favorite.
game. It is let's see. We can just look at any, stream of Heroes of the Storm, and you'll see why nobody plays it anymore, because it doesn't look fun. And but the amount of fun and complexity that I find with this game is just phenomenal. I love it, and I'm gonna play it later tonight. And it's a thrill to find people who share that, because I feel like the people who play it all enjoy it that much.
That's fantastic.
So okay. For mine, I have two honorable mentions. I mentioned Chants of Sonar last time we spoke, but I have two more. One of them is Slay the Princess. And
Oh,
Excellent.
yeah.
so good, fantastic writing, and has so many different endings and excellent art. And basically, my best friend sat me down and was like, "Hey, I want to watch you play this game and see what happens," because there's so many different endings, and she just wanted to see how I took it and which way I went first. And yeah, it was an excellent experience. Like the whole thing we played, I think, in like one evening, or at least through to one of the endings. Yeah, excellent game, but it's one of those games that's hard to talk about without spoiling it. So that's all I will say on that one. And the other one I want to bring is Outer Wilds, which is a game that I voted
Yay.
against on our first besties because it's a game that I hadn't played, and I am regretting that now because my goodness, this is a wonderful game. Yeah,
Yay.
it's a
Yeah.
beautiful story. It's excellent mechanics. I think the mechanics were actually what made it a little bit inaccessible for me at first, which is maybe a slight downside, just because I didn't have a computer that could fully handle the game mechanics. But it's such a good game. I love everything about this game.
Your comment there reminds me of my other worsties, because I have written here two things: Far Cry 6, which I went over last time, and the second one is having a computer that make gaming like bad ice cream.
Yeah.
And to describe that,
Awesome.
I commonly talk about this effect that I have felt when with ice cream, and I hope it's relatable, where sometimes you eat an ice cream that's still good, but just not good enough, that will make you think for a long period of time, well, I can see why other people like ice cream, but maybe it's just not something that I like.
Yep.
And this can happen with, anything you enjoy, where you encounter, this series of small things, or even just one painfully mediocre experience that you extrapolate in your experience in order to believe something that's not quite as true about yourself as you thought. I think that I may have been experiencing this with video games because I have a long history of having just bizarre gremlin-like computer problems. So you can ask any of my friends here, and they can attest that they are spooky and otherworldly how bizarre they are to troubleshoot. But for a long time, I've had a computer that I didn't see how poor it was at running these games. And in order to enjoy any of the games that we have here, they have to be easy to play. They have to be of a certain level of quality of experience, or the message is lost. And I think that I was losing some of the messages behind all the troubleshooting, all of the poor performance, all of the bugs, and that was a genuine shame. But I'm really excited because now I have a computer that I feel safe to approach a lot of these games again. So I don't know, maybe I'll have some more besties for next year that I've revisited.
Yeah, that is so very good. Like, I can relate to that so much as a longtime laptop user up until like 2 or so years ago. Having a computer that can actually handle like bigger, more intense games is just, it makes the whole experience just taste like better ice cream.
Yep.
There's
exactly.
no freezer burn on this game.
Yeah.
Excellent. Do you want to move on to the final round?
Or I want to do some of my honorable mentions. So I have a few. I'll just go through them quick. Vermintide 2 finally put in multiplayer where you can be the rats and you can attack the survivors, just like in Left 4 Dead 2. It took them that long, but apparently it's really great and fun. I love Vermintide 2, and I'm really happy to see that development. Last year, I spent a lot of time playing IL-2 Sturmovik and made a few videos for my channel, which was a big life achievement for me to actually get into a full, crunchy, detailed simulator and get my joysticks together and actually play it and use it correctly. And that was a huge amount of fun. Also, Monster Hunter Rise, I think, was a game that I worked really hard to get through. I don't know if it was all the way last year or if it was 1 year before that, but I just remember working through Rise being an amazing experience. Monster Hunter continues to be some of the best games that have ever been made by people. So Web Fishing came out, I think, in November, and it's just a cute little chat room game.
It's
where
such a cute game.
You play as cats or dogs, and then you fish for little fish, and then you use it to buy shirts and hats, and it's just really fun.
The whole thing is in the style of Animal Crossing, too, so it's just like Animal Crossing fishing, but an MMO where you're all just cats and dogs. It's very cute.
Yeah, and one of my favorite kind of indie small games is Kenshi, and Kenshi 2 is currently being worked on by I think it's just one guy. He might have been hiring on more people now, but it's just a really great, like, bare bones survival. It's hard to describe. It's like a simulator as an RPG, I guess you could say. It's typical sandbox where, like, the world doesn't care about you. You can lose arms and limbs. You often get knocked unconscious instead of killed, and then either sold into slavery, and then you can try to escape. It's very Mount and Blade Bannerlords 2-esque, but in a completely unique, harsh desert environment. I really love that. And then, of course, there's Total War Warhammer 3, which is a game that I still have to get up the courage to play and do well on. It's better and bigger than ever. They keep on updating it, keep on patching it, keep on making it better and better. It's really a labor of love. And it did a great job. yeah, so I think that is it. Oh, the other one is BattleTech. I finally finished BattleTech after like 7 years. I've been making a big point of actually finishing these games that I have on my list, and I did just that in 2024, and that was really, really positive for me.
Nice.
All right. So, without further ado, on to our final round. It is going to be the hotly contested match between Helldivers 2 and Horizon Forbidden West for Game of the Year in 2024. This is going to be a hard one, guys.
Yep.
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 Yeah.
A lot of people's emotions are on the line for this, not just here in the studio with us, but our audience, I'm sure, is going to have some very opinionated choices about just who should win here.
Don't message me. This is our game of the year, not
You can
your
message
game
me.
Of the year.
Message me
I
instead.
hear you
Leave them in the
typing.
comments.
Yeah.
I've
Negative
heard
engagement
this
is still engagement. Drives the algorithm. All right. So, I mean, we have to start somewhere. I'm just going to pick someone. Rather Sunless. What do you have to
All
say
right.
about this?
Well, I have to say that I have an initial idea for a name of the round. Which
Okay,
is-
that's good.
How many people does it take?
Yes.
Because the big question here is I love both these games. I love these games a lot. I'll be thinking about both of these games for a long time. And one of them is the quintessential multiplayer action experience with
Right.
Helldivers 2, right? 4-player co-op, drop in, literal drop in, drop out. Co-op, fun with your friends, get on Discord, rockin' good time. And the other is the quintessential single-player experience. It's huge, it's expansive, it takes 100 hours, and it's just you and the world and the story. And both of these are these sort of concepts taken to nearly the max of what is possible, or what we've seen so far in the gaming space as of the end of 2024. So it kind of ends up coming down to, do I like the single player or the multiplayer more, or which little subgenre, which player count hit harder in 2024, right? Like,
yeah.
Mhm.
am I like, do I remember more fondly the Helldivers drops, or do I remember more fondly the experience of getting really stuck in with Horizon? And because I like them both a lot, and
Mhm.
yeah, it's a real toughie. Which one? I'm edging towards Helldivers at this point, but it's 9.5 out of 10 to a 9 out of 10, right? Like, we are nice
Really?
edge.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, I am slightly surprised as someone who's played the most of Horizon Forbidden West at the table here. I mean, I've thought about this a lot for pretty much all year. And I do want to bring up what I talked about in the last round, which is there were parts of Helldivers 2 experience that were not as great as we might be remembering it, because it improved a lot at the end of the year, right? They fixed
Yeah.
a lot of the things. But, I think last year I brought up, like, some of the launch experiences can flavor or influence the game. For this one, for Helldivers 2, I don't think there's any way they could have anticipated just how successful Helldivers 2 was going to be. Like, this was unprecedented in the industry.
Oh, yeah.
It's full of stories, like, from the devs and everyone, of that just unexpected completely, the level of success.
Yeah, they planned for 1/20th the player base, which is an absurd number. It's an
Yeah.
absurd success for a multiplayer game.
And
And like,
from all reports, the staff, once they did know that they were blowing up, worked really hard over the weekend and got on the phone to their data farm to, like, emergency buy more storage and data space.
Yeah.
But
No, I think they were working like multiple weekends for like
Yeah.
that first month
Yeah.
or two.
right?
yeah,
The best problem you could have, but still overwork. I don't know if that's
Still a lot of work, but I mean,
Yeah.
it's probably it's certainly going to solidify your studio and your own career as well. So
Certainly.
Probably not work that goes unappreciated.
Well, I hope they
Yeah.
all got bonuses. But
I would hope so.
I'm just saying, as a product experience, I remember reserving space and, concerting with everyone else about whether you got in or not for not just the first weekend, but like the first 2 or 3 weekends. If it started to go to Friday for some of the Eastern Seaboard, it was almost impossible to play that game for, I think, 3 weeks out, which was, in some ways, it's the advantage of having a long line at a nightclub, right? It shows that everyone wants to get in, and then you can't get in, which heightens your emotion to want it. But I will say, like, there are times after certain patches where it would just crash on me, right? That happened kind of persistently for my computer for some amount of time. And there were multiple times when I was just like, look, it's crashing so much that I just can't play Helldivers 2 right now. And that was sad.
Yeah, I have some thoughts about the whole the launch situation, right? Because this reminds me of a lot of launch situations that I've been in. Because I've been in launch weekends for games like Diablo 3 and
I remember that.
And Guild Wars 2 launch weekend was another horrible nightmare. I wasn't in WoW, but I heard those are a whole bunches of fun. But for me, a lot of these rough launch weekends actually end up not coloring the experience that poorly for me if they are fixed, right? Because there have been some games. I do want to call out Call of Duty. What is it? The Wildlands? Not Wildlands.
Warzone.
Yeah. Warzone. Thank you. Call of Duty Warzone, which just stopped working for me, and they never fixed. But they never fixed it. Helldivers had a stable experience quickly, not immediately, and it certainly had a really long tail of issues, especially in the balance thing. But even when the balance was kind of bad, the game was still fun. It was still a darn good time to get on with 3 people and have fun. And maybe, we were all using exclusively the autocannon and the one gun that was good for a hot minute. But it was still a good time, right?
Yeah.
And it was still excellent. And
I mean, but this is more of my kind of point, which is Helldivers 2 kind of lives and dies based on the balance of the meta.
I mean, Helldivers 2 lives and dies by the people that are still enjoying playing it, right? Which can be anything. That can be your computer crashing. That can be the balance being bad. It can be a new game coming out. It can be a whole numbers of reasons why people do and do not play this game. And I just count myself really blessed that I was able to be a part of it for so long, and still am, right? I'm fully planning on playing some of this weekend. We got the new Warbond out.
Yeah.
And hit people with a flag. It sounds like a blast. And it's just the experience you have is it's harkening back to the old days of Battlefield for me, where they're it was stupid marketing speech, but the whole thing about Battlefield moments was real. Every match, multiple times per match, you'd have something straight out of the coolest war movie you've ever seen in your whole life. And then Helldivers 2, it's every frame. Every single frame is a screenshot from the most hype scripted experience in any other game, and it just happens over and over and over and over again to you. And so much so that masterful pieces of tales of heroism and survival just go unspoken of, because they're just a thing that happens in Helldivers 2, right? They're just, it's normal to do that and to see that and to watch people do it, and that's what makes it so cool.
Yeah, you're constantly saving your friends, and that's a position that I think a lot of multiplayer games strive for, and Helldivers immediately wins at creating that effect.
I have a very nitpicky artist thing to mention between these 2 games.
Please do.
And that is fabric physics. And hair physics also, especially. I think that the capes in Helldivers are really, really fun. And they're flowy and they're swishy and they're a little bit much, but it kind of works. And then for Horizon Forbidden West, everything in this game is immaculate and fantastic, and then their beautiful flowy clothes that they've spent hundreds of hours like modeling and designing and concept arting, they clip through everything.
Yeah.
Her hair clips through her armor in just about every scene. Like we're watching a cutscene on it right now.
Right now.
And in a cutscene, she'll move her head like a fraction of an inch, and her entire mane of hair goes.
Yeah, it goes crazy.
Like, I've had long, flowy hair for most of my life. It doesn't do that. Hair is heavy. Like,
it is interesting that was like a problem in the first game too. That I guess just isn't a high priority for fixing, so it kind of just propagated out.
So
hair
they
is so hard. Hair is so hard to do.
But also
hard.
they were the ones that decided she was going to look like that.
It's true. It's like, they could have given her like a nice butch haircut, and she would.
They have a $10 graphics upgrade for the first Horizon Zero Dawn, which really fixes a lot of the facial expressions in the cutscenes, which was kind of a hard part about that story-driven RPG narrative game. Was that
that's the first game?
The way that the characters looked in the first game was pretty rough in the middle of a conversation. Very like Mass Effect 2, Mass Effect 1 kind of vibes.
But for this one, like, their faces are fantastic. Like, this is some of the best, like, video acting that I've seen portrayed through a video game, because they get like the little micro expressions and every little texture of the skin. Like, it looks very realistic without being uncanny in a way that I feel like a lot of games strive for but kind of get close to and miss. But I just wish that her hair, like, they try really, really hard to make her hair so flowy and so swishy, because I think that's also a key point of what they're trying to do, which is to have a female character who is feminine, who is the hero. Like,
definitely.
I'm glad that they didn't give her like a very short haircut, because I think she would have rocked it. But I think that it's a lot easier to hide the fact that your protagonist is a woman if they have short hair.
Yep.
But even still, a compromise of being like a ponytail probably would have saved them a bit of headache in the regard of clipping.
Yeah,
like they gave her a great hair.
Just a little bit less swishy.
Yeah. I mean, this is kind of, the big themes of a single player experience that was, maybe not flawless, but certainly didn't have to deal with the flaws of a multiplayer experience game, not just in terms of just getting it to run on opening week or weekend, but also like persistent system bugs, being able to like join your friends, having games drop in very high intensity scenarios where you've invested like 40 minutes into something and then you don't get any of the rewards, right? Like that was part of the Helldivers 2 experience for me, at least. And in a way, Horizon Forbidden West gets to skip those exact types of description problems. They get single player ones. But I just want to remind everyone, like, Helldivers 2, as great as it was for that year, and certainly I think it was defining for that year, it wasn't flawless.
Oh, of course not. Yeah,
well, no game is flawless, but it comes down to the compromises you're making. Whether these are things that can be fixed in the case. I mean, this is the advantage that Helldivers would always have over a game like Horizon, which is that you can fix a lot more of that stuff on the fly.
Yeah, but I'm mostly just like, there was a time when Line Arc Line came up to me, I think in like August or September, and they were just like, I tried to play Helldivers solo and I just did not have a good time, and it was multiple times. It was persistent. You want to talk about that part, Line Arc Line?
Yeah, I mean, part of it makes me wonder if it was the poor performance of my computer at the time.
Maybe.
Because
it can be very demanding. Helldivers 2.
There is this. I think this is more common than I know about, but for a very long time, if my frame rate drops below a certain amount, and it's kind of high, like usually under like 90 frames per second, it puts me to sleep. It makes me so drowsy. And I'll think, oh, wow, well, I've had a hard day, I need a nap, or, maybe I didn't get enough sleep. But then the moment I stop playing these video games, and it can be anything from Terraria to Helldivers to, it's usually 3-dimensional games when this happens. But the moment I stop, it'll just cease. But I don't know if it was entirely that, because with Helldivers, it's kind of a limited game. You only do a few things, and those things are really good. Those things are polished and with other people, generally fun. But it can get old if there aren't a lot of, if you aren't part of a community. And I think they got pretty old for me pretty quickly. And I think that I wasn't invested in the meta at the time, and just had difficulty finding the time to play with you guys. And that was a disappointing moment for me.
It's a game that's much, much better with friends Playing with strangers sometimes can border on a negative experience, depending on who those strangers are. And I've both been kicked, I feel like, unjustly from a team, and I've also had to be the one who kicked random people who were not doing healthy things for our objectives. And like, that is part of the experience, that's part of the multiplayer experience.
Yeah, it really, like, at least in my personal definitions, it's really coming down to, am I going to vote for the best game I played this year, which is Horizon, or am I going to vote for the game of the year, the game that defined the year, which is Helldivers?
That's what I had to do last round.
Yeah. Which is it? I don't know. They were both really good.
You have any thoughts, Carbon Speed Dating?
I was going to say that I think I'm going to have to lean towards given how great both games are, I think I'm just going to have to decide on which game I'm more likely to play. And for me, I don't personally play very many online multiplayer experiences, just because it's not really my cup of tea. But Horizon was, marvelous story, marvelous mechanics, great art direction, as we mentioned before. It's a hard choice.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like, I have a joke where I always play the game that we elect as Game of the Year in the following year. So, like, I spent most of my time in 2024 also playing Elden Ring and Baldur's Gate 3 and, like, just actually finding the time to go into giving to all of these places and spaces. And, like, I know I'm almost done with Horizon Zero Dawn, and I'm certainly going to play Horizon Forbidden West. My time with it when I was playing it, just over and over in my mind, was like, this is the best game that has ever been made. Like, this game is surprising. It is infinitely detailed. It knows what it's like to play it in such a beautiful way. And as much fun as I have with Helldivers, I do remember some of the negative parts of my experience with that game, not just in the opening part, but also like consistent crashes, consistent issues that I experienced as I played it. And also I think I played it in this group the most out of everybody. I think the highest level at time of writing, but I did all of that without paying an extra dime for the content. And I still don't have all of the Warbond things. And like, I think a lot of people are going to automatically give Helldivers, a pass or breaks on their monetization, partly because they're the healthiest that monetization has ever looked in the gaming sphere. They've won like multiple awards for the fact that it's anti-FOMO, the fact that you can always grind up the free currency when you do it. But, I think over 300 hours in, and I think I just got to half of the releases. and I play that game quite a lot. I play it more than anyone else in our friend group, I think. So I think that there is some pressure there for the extra spend. Now, granted, it was a $40 title to begin with. I'm pretty sure, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, $39.
And any game where they need to constantly maintain multiplayer servers gets a bit of a pass, because if you think that's cheap, you are very wrong.
I agree. But, earlier in our first round, there was a discussion about how video games are priced for online stuff and also just consistent models. And I just want to bring up that, there is a way to spend, I think, over $150 on Helldivers 2 right now if you wanted to, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, a lot of people don't do that, but I think Hail Noxid does purchase almost every one of the battle passes when they come out, just for time constraint reasons. And it's also his choice to just, use the money that he makes at his job in that way. And I think that's healthy and fine. But, it is there if you wanted to.
I do feel I must mention in a minor defense of it that since the war bonds all come with the built-in fancy currency, you were guaranteed to only have to buy 3 out of every 4.
Right.
If you want to buy all of them and don't want to.
Because some of the in-game currency is part of the package when you buy the package. So it's discounted in that way, or rather paid forward into the next package that you get.
Exactly.
I think for my personal vote, I think mine's going to have to go to Helldivers 2 for just, like I said, the cultural impact that it had on this past year specifically has been really good, and hopefully it'll still continue to have a good impact on 2025. But I think specifically for 2024, the year that it came out, I think it had such a huge impact, and I'm really excited to see more of Horizon Forbidden West. And I love the art about it so much, actually debating buying the art book for this game because it's so beautiful. But I think for me, for 2024, it's got to be Helldivers 2.
All right. Does anyone else feel ready to vote?
Yeah, I can go next.
All right.
I think that despite what I've said, they're both great games. I think I'm leaning towards Horizon just because of the 2 games. I appreciate a game that does have a complete experience. There's this idea of forever games that can. I think there's something to be said about a game that you can actually finish. Not to mention it's optional. So I'm going with Horizon.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Linearch Line, how do you feel?
Man, I thought I was sure right up until you said my name.
Yeah.
Because
It'd be like
with Helldivers, I think there's no question that it influenced me the most this year. And I saw the most impact on the world and not just the gaming community, but I think it has things to say that are wider reaching than that. It reached a wider audience than I see most other games reach. And it's become a pretty common name to be talked about, especially in modern video games. But I mean, the more that I sit with the thought of playing it after this, is I know what I'm going to do, and I know the difficulties I'm going to have, and I know the successes that I'm going to have, and I wonder if I can see a solid future with it. It doesn't have the moments like PUBG where it has moments I particularly want to share with other people. It's a good excuse to get together with the people that I enjoy spending time with, but it's not as good as I can dream of. And I don't know, maybe Horizon Forbidden West, you guys talk pretty positively about it, and man,
It's hard. Like I said, this is going to be the most difficult round. I mean, we can give
It's
you
the
more time.
finals. I think I'm gonna set a vote in right now for Helldivers because it's something that I was asking for. It was something that I was hoping would be released. If not in this year, then any year, which is a reason to come back to video gaming. And I think Helldivers is a reason that can draw a lot of people in, and you can't necessarily say that for for Horizon, because it's a game that people play if they already are kind of playing video games. I've seen more people drawn in by Helldivers and drawn in not just by playing it, but the awareness that it exists, that I think that its influence pretty much decides it. So I'm going to put in my vote for Helldivers.
Okay. Wow. All right. So maybe you can previously guess my vote from my forecasting, but for me, I think it has to be Forbidden West for this year. And I'll tell you for why. It's not that I didn't enjoy my time with Helldivers 2. It's not that I didn't believe that Helldivers 2 was extremely influential during this time period and for that year. But when I think about like lasting impact games, I do kind of feel like Forbidden West is the kind of game that I'll remember the story of it for the rest of my life in a way that I do for, my time for all the Elder Scrolls or God of War or that kind of deep personal emotional storytelling. I just think it's hitting more of the categories of gaming that gaming can touch. And granted, it's doing that with a bigger team and with a bigger scope. But if you factor in like the character writing, the voice acting, the combat system, yes, but also the map generation, like all of the detail and work and love that is what Forbidden West is like the game of my dreams when I was in the 2000s playing Halo. And while Helldivers 2 is a great thing, it's a beautiful example of what gaming is and can be, it also does kind of feel like a throwback to a game that could have been made a little earlier. And its visuals are also great, but, it doesn't have to do a lot of the same level of storytelling for character work or acting. The voice acting that it does have is absolutely great, but it's, it's like kind of set dressing for the world. It's like lore writing a little bit. There's not deep narrative arcs to be had. There's not, I think that there is a commentary to be made about the world, but I also, as someone who studies history and politics, I sometimes, as much as I love the satire and irony as a joke structure, I wonder how deep that commentary actually genuinely does go outside of just saying like, oh, the system itself isn't perfect right now. Look out for that. It doesn't really offer that many like meaningful alternatives. It doesn't really get into any actual solutions. And, it's as salient and important as it is to make people aware. It does kind of feel like that South Park stopping on like where that commentary begins and ends.
Mhm.
I was hoping for something a little bit better or a little bit deeper or a little bit more meaningful, but that's also kind of bound by the constraints of what the game is, where you are still a soldier. You can't choose to join the resistance. You can't choose to, that much meaningfully impact what actually happens in the world outside of large-scale community movement. But even that is curtailed by the game master kind of doing what the game master wants anyway a lot of the times. Like, there was some pretty heavy disillusionment that my friend Coronado voiced to me in late summer when we were getting really, really into Helldivers, which is like, at the end of the day, the game company will still kind of walk back a lot of the progress that the community makes whenever they choose to, and there's not a lot that we can do about that. So I don't know. It made a lot of promises at the beginning, and then over the course of the year of me playing it a lot, I did kind of see some of those promises tarnished, and I got a little disillusioned with it. In terms of the overall meta for what the community's goals and achievements actually realistically can be in that space. Because, at the beginning we were like, oh, we can push through fronts, we can get certain things accomplished, we can make strategic objective gains. But then there's times when the company just like walked back months of community progress in a weekend, or specifically timed it to happen after the weekend when they knew that the player base didn't have enough players to push back against it, stuff like that. But yeah, and on the other hand, everything I've heard about Horizon Forbidden West is like, it's the best game in the world. All right, so that's 2 votes for Helldivers, Shaunosaur and Linearch Line, to 2 votes for Carbon Speed Dating.
Yep.
2 votes for
So-
Carbon Speed Dating and Clever Diversion, and the deciding vote, Sunless.
Yep, it's up to me.
What do you have?
I always say
Powerful.
I should just skip this whole like salsa thing and just go ask Sunless anyway. He's
What
gonna
was
know.
the year?
What
What was the best game this year?
Yeah,
you decide.
I want to start by defending Helldivers 2 a little bit, because I think that in criticizing the weaknesses of its meta narrative and the actions of the player base with regards to the game developer or the game director, you reveal that it's even possible to have a space where it's possible to criticize anything like that in the first place.
Yeah,
That
I definitely
level
get it.
of player versus company meta narrative is seen in maybe 2 other games, maybe, right? Like, it's what, Helldivers 2 and Eve,
Yeah.
and maybe some other large MMO. Like, the fact that it even pretends to measure meaningful impact by individual squads of 4 players on a map in a battle that costs billions of digital lives is an accomplishment that should not go understated. That's crazy that is even a thing that is allowed to happen. And the fact that it works sometimes, like, yeah, the game director walks us back and sets new invasions that are impossible and does all that things, but then I also remember the children's hospital that we all rallied to go
Yeah.
defend, and Malevelon Creek, and all of these great community moments where it was hundreds of thousands of actual people across the world banding together to accomplish this very silly digital goal.
And the company recently has released video game episodes that are specifically devoted to those community moments, so that they'll
Yeah.
be acknowledged by the community and memorialized forever for future generations of gamers.
Yeah, I will always remember the tale of the anti-tank mines, which we steadfastly refused to go and get as
Yep,
a community,
that was
as
so
a
good.
joke for months, because it was funny. And like, we were allowed to do that, and we did that. And that's hilarious. But thinking on it back and listening to people's discussions, yeah, Horizon Forbidden West is basically one of the best games I've ever played in my whole life. It's just that I think a lot of the reasons that I was down on it is because in 2025 I started by playing a better game. That I'm not going to reveal, but because I'm going to be bringing it next year.
A year's worth of anticipation.
Yes.
That's what our audience gets with this podcast.
I started and finished it in January. Like, it's a very
Yes, no, in the
similar game
comments.
that's even better. in a number of ways. Now, Horizon Forbidden West is better than this mystery game in a number of ways as well, and it is an incredible accomplishment. Which really makes this discussion really hard.
I mean, I'm
Because
just saying that
it's
not to influence you, but definitely to influence you. Horizon Forbidden West is the total package.
it is.
It's got everything.
Honest- It's got everything, and Helldivers 2 is expanding the envelope, right?
Oh,
It's
yeah.
do we have the perfect existing game that's in line with other games, or do we have something that breaks the mold and does something new, or it does something old in a new way, right?
Is that
it's-
what the name of the round should be?
I don't even know what I said.
Yeah. I mean, it's a very
Um,
We already
beautiful.
How many people does it take?
Oh, how many people does it take? Is the round name? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a really, really tough decision. But I think I have to give it to Horizon at this point. Just because
Ooh.
like when I think about it, when I actually really think about it, I can take away some points from Helldivers because the fun I was having was because I was with my friends, and it was just an excuse to get in Discord.
Right.
Now that doesn't mean multiplayer games are bad or will always be graded lower. It's just like I need to remember that some of that fun I'll always have, even if it's not an incredible game. And Helldivers 2 is an incredible game. But like, even if we're playing something kind of mid, I don't want to throw another game out of the bus here.
Right.
But like, there are various other games
Something
that are
mid
not
like Apex Legends.
right. Something mid like Heroes of the Storm. No, I'm just kidding. It's a fun game. Yeah, like League of Legends.
Oh hell yeah.
And yeah, it'd still be fun. It's still a good multiplayer experience, even if it's not incredible. The incredible game. And Horizon is so good. It really is.
It's so good.
And honestly, it lets me listen to a tech pro who became a tumor wrapped around a geoplant burned to death. So that's
Yeah.
kind of fun.
And
That's
that
a
was
good
before
moment.
Doge. That was before Elon Musk pulled all his bullshit.
Yeah,
So it was just good for the soul to see that can happen to tech millionaires.
yeah, that was a good one.
Final Fate.
Yeah.
Horizon definitely gets the fate of the tech pro correct because man, they're losers.
Well, it's a big part of the narrative, actually, is the idea of how tech dominating all aspects of life might not be a good thing.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Maybe the neoliberalism of your technocracy over like supplanting democratic actual structures of government is a bad thing.
What?
Maybe.
That's crazy.
And bigger robots.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, my vote comes down to what's got the bigger robots. And Helldivers got big robots. Horizon got bigger robots.
It's
Big
bigger.
Oh, yeah.
robots.
There you
They're
go.
bigger. Actually, you know what it really is? What it really actually is?
What?
I have a model kit for our Horizon Thunderjaw. I do
Aw.
not
So
have a model kit
good.
for Helldivers. So,
Great point.
It's a great point. And if for Halloween we buy each other capes and Helldivers equipment, then we can maybe vote for it then. I'm sure it'll be an
Yeah.
honorable mention for many, many years to come.
mhm.
Yeah. All
All
right.
right.
Well, that's that final vote for Horizon Forbidden West. I do have to say I'm
Congratulations.
kind of surprised.
Yeah.
Me too.
So am I.
yeah.
I mean,
I-
good surprised,
Yeah.
but also like it's just there's certain rounds in our finals rounds each year where it really could go both ways.
Mhm.
And I do end up thinking about them for like several months afterwards. And I think this
We
is
tried
definitely going to be
to-
one of them. But
We tried
unfortunately,
to seed it.
one of our members, Line Arc Line, has an important time commitment that they need for their in real life personal and professional development. So the salsa discussion will have to be postponed, in this case, until next year. I'd say
Are you sure?
2025.
I have a couple. Man,
Well, unfortunately, I mean,
Jeez.
I'd love to. I really, really would, but it's just that
Yep.
that time constraint is just a really tight window, and we do have to meet that deadline. So,
It is
Um,
9:15 already, so
yeah,
keep getting back on these tangents on video. Like we talk about video games for so, like
can't
we
stop talking
really
about
have to
video games.
buckle down.
Yeah, well,
next year
when,
Next year.
and get to them.
no one play any good games next
Yeah,
year.
when?
alright?
Okay.
Well, too late.
Oh,
I mean,
shoot.
too late.
Too late.
I mean,
Oh,
have you
dang it.
heard
I
Claire
played,
Obscura?
like, several good games.
You know, when we do get to talk about the salsas, I'm sure there'll be tangents for salsa. I'm sure there'll be heated
That's true.
debate topics with a lot of people's opinions and identities on the line for the salsa as well. But until then, we're going to have to postpone until hopefully early in the year 2026, most likely. But we'll see if America still stands at that time. We'll see how the state of the world is post tariff environment. I think both of the games that we're showing right now, Horizon Forbidden West and Helldivers 2, has a somewhat darker portrayal of the future, and we'll see how much of that comes to pass.
I'll be
Mhm.
that guy with the lights on his forehead, and I'll be like, man, I had a good picante.
Yeah, real good picante. All right,
Thanks.
and with
It was a treat, as usual.
that bombshell, we will leave our wonderful thoughts and prayers for 2024, and we will see you again when it's time to talk about our experiences of ourselves in the future in 2025. All
Peace.
right. Thank you guys for listening, those who did. And
Congratulations.
congratulations to Horizon Forbidden West Game of the Year and Spiciest Salsa of 2024. All
We
right.
did it.
Bye.
Later on.